Now that the season is officially over, it's time to look towards the future and where exactly should the Broncos be looking and what gaps do they need to fill? This is your Denver Sports Daily for January 16th.
The biggest stories, the latest news. It's Denver Sports Daily.
Now, what gaps should the Broncos look to fill in the offseason? Obviously, the season overall was incredible. It was a total success for the Broncos overall. Incredible season. Great play all around. Not much that they need to do better, but still a lot that they can improve on. Now, there are a lot of gaps that need to be filled. There is stuff that needs to be done better, but this team has a lot of growing to do. That's the thing. There's a lot of growing to be done for this Broncos team, a very young Broncos team. Now, the Broncos have 6 picks in this year's draft, including the 20th overall pick, a second rounder, third rounder, fourth, and 2 sixes. The wide receiver room for the Broncos overall looks pretty good, but adding a rookie receiver could be a huge help. Somebody like Luther Burden is on my mind. He's out of Mizzou. Now, the problem with Luther Burden is that before a couple weeks ago, before college football really started to die down, he wasn't that high. He was looking like a late first rounder. Now he's being projected towards the top of the first round. Now, sure, draft projections don't really matter until draft night. Honestly, draft projections do not matter until draft night. If Luther Burden is on the board for the Broncos, they should take them. But he could very well be drafted far too high. Isaiah Bond out of Alabama would also be a big pickup. That's somebody that the Broncos really could pick up later in the second round, maybe in the third round. They could get him later. He's been a great player. Isaiah Bond is another one of those wide receivers that the Broncos really should be looking at. But before wide receiver, if they can get a quality tight end, that would be a huge help for this team. Having somebody that Bo Nix can hit consistently in the flat or midfield, that would open up the playbook in a massive way. Tyler Warren out of Penn State is a big name people are throwing around. He's been ranked the #1 tight end in the draft. He's been incredible. If you watch Penn State, you're seeing him almost every play. He's making plays, great on the block, great right there on that curl route in the middle of the field. The flat can make downfield plays. That would be a huge pickup. Tyler Warren, that's a guy that you guys should really be looking at, scouting him. Look at him, watch him, and tell me you're not seeing somebody who could fit in with the Broncos and open up the playbook for Bo Nix. That's the thing. This playbook has shrunk. It's shrunk with Bo Nix a little bit because he's a rookie, first of all, and not necessarily his wide receivers, but his tight ends and running backs off the catch, they are not as reliable as they should be. So having somebody, a big name, Tyler Warren, in that tight end spot, that #1, that rookie tight end, that would be huge for this team. Now, the running backs for Denver have been a talking point as well, mostly whether or not the guys on this team right now are consistent enough to be a true RB1. Now, clearly, Boise State's Ashton Genty would be a huge pickup. If he falls to the Broncos, they would be crazy not to draft him, but likely he won't fall all the way to the Broncos. But somebody like Caleb Johnson out of Iowa or Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State, they might be more feasible. Somebody that, is consistent, but a rookie running back to have on your team that you really feel successful in, that you feel he can make a difference and keep him on this team for a long time. He'll continue to grow. Huge pickup for the Broncos if they can get somebody like that. Now, lastly, the linebacker position could be improved, and somebody like Jalen Walker out of Georgia or Alabama's Jahan Campbell, they could be huge. Both of them likely going to be taken too early for the Broncos. Now, that's another thing I keep saying, too early for the Broncos, and I'm happy to be saying it because last season we were talking about that the pick that they had at the 12th spot, and it just was kind of rough for the Broncos. They didn't do bad enough to get an early draft pick, and they didn't do good enough to get a late draft pick and go into the playoffs. This season they made it to the playoffs and still have the 20th pick. That's not terrible. You're getting in the 20s. You have an early 20 pick. Could be used, could find some big name players that you could get at that 20th pick and you still made the playoffs. So it's honestly a pretty good position that the Broncos are in right now. Somebody who could definitely fall to the Broncos as a linebacker is Jay Higgins out of Iowa. That would also be a huge help for the Broncos. Now, again, draft is a little while out. A lot of movements still to be had. who's actually going to be successful, who's still going to declare for the draft. College football is not done yet. So there are still players that could choose to come in and say, I want a spot. I want to be in the draft. I'm going to declare. The Broncos may move around and look at who else they want. A lot of conversations to be had about what they can do to improve this team. There's a lot that they can do. And also, there's a lot of really good parts about this Broncos team right now. There's a lot of great in it. So they have a really good opportunity right now to nail down one person in that first round. Look in your later rounds. Who do we want then? Get that guy that you really want who can make a big difference. A skill position on offense, a tight end would be huge. That's where I'm leaning toward mostly. That Tyler Warren would be huge. That would be that's where my head's at. That's where the Broncos should pick. That's who the Broncos should get. If he's able to fall to the Broncos, get him there. Huge, big move for the Broncos. Now, moving on, the Nuggets were blown out last night against the Rockets, losing 128-108. Coming off the back of their blowout win against the Mavs, Texas got some revenge. The Nuggets lost badly to the Houston Rockets. Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon were both ruled out for the game, and the Rockets took advantage of that situation. They really did. It seems that Jokic was ruled out right before the game after he suffered an apparent elbow injury earlier that day, right before the game. It was a late call out for Nikola Jokic saying he can't play today. But Christian Brown and Jamal Murray took over. They both scored 22 points, and specifically Brown, he really went off. He went 10 for 11 from the field, 22 points on 10 for 11. That's the kind of production you want from your starting shooting guard, especially if Nikola Jokic isn't there and Aaron Gordon isn't there. This is only the 5th loss with Russell Westbrook when he's in the starting lineup. So unfortunately, couldn't get that win. But Houston's a good team. Houston is a really good team. This is the Nuggets' first loss, though, on the second night of their back-to-backs. They're now 7-8. The Nuggets are now 24-16 on the and 4th in the West. They play again against the Miami Heat this Friday, and which should be a great game as well. The Miami Heat and the Nuggets, they have their history. The Nuggets pulled away a championship from their hands, so this will be a great game this Friday. It is an Avalanche game day today as well. The Avs are taking on the Edmonton Oilers in what's going to be a much-anticipated matchup. Both of these teams have been playing very well. Both are 7-2-1 in their last 10, tied for that. But the Avs are coming into this matchup as 2-point favorites, and that's partially because they are at home again against the Edmonton Oilers. Last time these teams matched up, Edmonton came to town and left with a 4-1 win over the Avs. Not a great showing that night, but their game will start at 7:30 p.m. tonight, and they will be broadcast on ESPN. It should be a great game, and I'll say it. Anytime the Avs are going out and Mackenzie Blackwood's in the net, it should be a win for the Avalanche. They're looking really good with him and the goalie, and I can say so much more about him. I really could. He's been great. He's been the exact kind of pickup the Avalanche needed, and they're winning games 7-2-1 in their last 10. That's great. That's great numbers. That's showing growth. Now they haven't won 2 games in a row so far coming into 2025. So hopefully they can break that streak tonight against the Oilers. Should be a great game. That again is going to be at 7:30 p.m. and will be on ESPN. But that's going to do it for your Denver Sports Daily. I do want to read some of your comments. Let's see. Good morning, Joey. Good morning, Roy. There's a bunch of different ways the Broncos can go. No, we have 7 picks. Maybe I was wrong on that. But I believe that it's 6 because we don't have the 5th and we don't have a 7th. We have 2 6s, no 5th, no 7th. So maybe you're right, but I believe when I was reading it, we only have 2 6s, a 5th, or 2 6s, a 4th, a 3rd, a 2nd, and a 1st. But could be wrong on that. But that's going to be it for your Denver Sports Daily. I'm going to be back with you guys again tomorrow, hopefully recapping Avalanche win. Should be big, should be huge. Hopefully the Avs can get on a good streak, win more than 1 game in a row in 2025. Could be huge. And then again, previewing the Nuggets game tomorrow night against the Miami Heat. Again, big game. That's going to do it for your Denver Sports Daily. We'll be back with you guys again tomorrow. Until then, y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye, y'all.